tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I think we're on part 7 of this investigation of the discourse on developing mindfulness. And we've now reached the 4th theme, the Dhammas, and slowly working through the 5 hindrances. So today's special hindrance is lethargy and sleepiness. Usually translated as sloth and torpor, but I don't know about you, but to me, sloth and torpor doesn't mean much to me. I think they're pretty old words, whoever talks about torpor these days. So anyway, sometimes translating it in a new way can give us another angle on it. So I translate it as lethargy and sleepiness. That is more meaning for me. But whatever works for you, it's okay. And even if this is not a particular problem right now, I mean, I can even guarantee that sometime in your practice, you're going to trip over this one eventually. It usually takes different forms at different stages of practice. Maybe in the beginning it's quite coarse, it's more like maybe more physical based. Just shifting your energy level, for example, from the usually worldly excitement and busyness and activity to a more contained, restrained, slower, calmer way of life, which is a helpful basis for meditation. And sometimes people find it very hard to adjust. Their body is used to being awake when they're active. So as soon as they sit down, they just fall asleep. A lot of people are quite overworked. And they go to work and they work, and come home and they sit down, they're out of it. So then you come down and sit in meditation and you're off work, so. Blank out. But maybe later in practice, this kind of lethargy may be more of a spiritual lethargy, a little bit more subtle, a little bit more hard to notice sometimes. So once we get some kind of awareness of this energy dynamic, basically, it's an energy dynamic, and then hopefully we're kind of primed to be able to observe it. I mean, this hindrance has to do with right energy, particularly with lethargy and sleepiness is a lack of energy. But when you develop awareness of that, you recognize the whole field of energy, and this is something we depend upon our whole life. How much energy to expend, how much energy to conserve. So it's helpful to get a careful perspective, understanding of this. So the cause of lethargy and sleepiness, basically it is just very simply a lack of energy. So there's various ways that we lose energy, right? Some of it's basically, you say, it's a bit more physical than mental, and just like not getting enough sleep. Other times maybe it's more mental, kind of disillusionment or dis-ease or something, not able to focus. Sometimes it is more spiritual lethargy. And sometimes the spiritual lethargy is actually a positive sign, because maybe it's a sign of progress, and your spirit's starting to get a bit restless, and then it kind of shuts down. Anyway, later, go into details later. The Pali Canon mentions there are five causes of sleepiness and lethargy and sleepiness. and discontent, weariness, laziness, drowsiness after the meal, and sluggishness of mind. Recognize any of those? All of them.
What will be after meal?
Of course, that's very obvious, yeah. How about 4 a.m. in the morning? Weariness?
Oh, that's right.
So the first one was discontent. I would add to this resistance also. I would say this is the discontent of, of not being content with your meditation practice, spiritual practice. And sometimes that is, discontent is because you don't have your expectations fulfilled. I came here to get a peaceful mind and it's not peaceful, and then you get kind of disillusioned and, what's the point? You just kind of plod along, no real inspiration. Sometimes it is resistance. When your practice is starting to get a little bit sensitized, sometimes your sense of a self will get a bit resistant. Don't poke, don't look too closely, don't get too close to this. I guess something's important there. I don't want to see it. And your kind of spirit kind of freezes up, doesn't want to look any deeper. Or things maybe are happening too quickly. You can have sort of kind of bit, you can say disturbing insights which shake up your ego, and then your ego doesn't know how quite to, integrate this into your practice then. So discontent can arise from many things. It can be a lack of fulfillment in your practice. Your lack of your expectations aren't fulfilled. It can be the other way around. If you have limited expectations, I came here just to have a little bit of peace of mind, and now I got it, and now what? I came here, to get peace of mind, and I got peace of mind in 1 month. 2 more months left. What am I going to do now? That was sort of like what happened to me in Thailand. I went to Thailand I thought meditation was just calming the mind. So when I found a quiet place and meditated for a month or so, my mind got peaceful. Well, not really peaceful. Temporarily peaceful at times, you see. And then what else? What else? What now? And but then it was. I'd already missed going back to university. Missed that semester, so might as well stay in Thailand where it's nice and warm and the food's good. And but it would, especially after about 3 years, I think. My practice just dried up. So I was really lost. And I was just thinking on the way down here, if I hadn't gone to Wat Nana Chat and met Ajahn Sumedho and Ajahn Chah, I probably would have just wandered out of the robes, basically. I wandered into the robes, I would have wandered out of the robes. But meeting Ajahn Chah gave a new lease on spiritual life. So weariness. Weariness is probably a bit more physical, just exhaustion. Weariness, when you're really exhausted, you can't see much progress, you can't see much hope in the future maybe, day after day, just slogging along. It's like I was maybe a few weeks ago with this carpal tunnel. I couldn't get any decent sleep. So just exhausted all the time, and the meditation went out the window, or out the door, or didn't even start. It was just slogging through every day just to get up and struggle down here, and but then having a routine, like a regular routine, is helpful then. So I didn't have to just sit there and feel sorry for myself. I just realized, and I recognized it was due to just lack of sleep, just your weariness. So no extra energy, just enough energy to cope, basically. Not to put into meditation practice, just enough to cope. Laziness. Yeah, sometimes, creeps up on us sometimes, and just being lazy. We know we should be doing, but we just maybe later. And it can have a number of sources too. Either we haven't got enough real focus on our practice, so we get to be dissipated, our energy gets dissipated, many things, or we get too busy with other things. So we kind of know what we should be doing, but we don't get around to doing it. We're lazy at the practice, as it were. Drowsiness after the meal. To explain that in any more detail. Sluggishness of mind. Sluggishness of mind can be it can be due to weariness, physical exhaustion. It can be due to your lack of inspiration or something, or direction. You wonder what you're doing here. Maybe you're tripped up by doubt or worry or something, whether your mind gets clogged up with extra thinking or something. So your mind's really sluggish. Don't know what I'm doing here. So anyway, these are the various causes that are mentioned in the Pali Canon. I would say there's another one which is maybe a little bit more prominent, I would say, to Westerners or people who are in the Western country unfamiliar with Buddhist practice. They come to meditation, and many times they get caught in what I call the Tranquility Trap. And we assume meditation is just tranquility. We have a busy life, like I mentioned, and the normal lifestyle is quite busy and active and exciting. And I thought, I need a break, I need to have a holiday, so I'll do meditation. And we sit there and just kind of slump into tranquility, to dullness most of the time. And we think this, mental lethargy, mental dullness is tranquility. So peaceful, nothing to worry about. It's what Ajahn Chah would call the tranquility of a water buffalo. Sure, you're tranquil, but there's no clarity, there's no energy, you might as well have a few cups of chamomile tea to be more useful. And then there's another one later in the practice. You might reach what I refer to as a spiritual doldrums, a spiritual drought. What happens is that, generally speaking, maybe in the beginning, first of all, the very beginning, maybe meditation. We come to meditation because it's very interesting. We have a lot of motivation, we have interest to do the practice, and if the practice is going well, we get some insights, so it gets confirmation, the practice is working. But after a while, these insights seem to dry up, and the practice appears to stagnate, appears to become nothing special, so it feels like a bit like a drought. Nothing much is happening. Maybe I'm doing it wrong or something, or what's happened, or maybe this is as far as my karma will allow me to go. The most progress I can make or something. And many people, if they don't have a good spiritual friend or a teacher or a guide, they usually stop or they try something else. They think it's not working. But that's usually a stage which is very, very precarious, because many times our spiritual practice is becoming internalized. It's actually working, but it's now becoming more normalized or internalized. At first, it's outside. It's here I am doing spiritual practice. So here I am kind of being entertained by my spiritual practice. But as it begins to take effect, it starts to come within, come home to us. And it's working internally. And then we're still looking outside, and we don't see the effect inside. Maybe some of your close friends might notice, you're more calm than before. You seem to have some wiser insights than last year. You weren't so prone to anger as you were previously. But you don't notice it because that's where you are, you see. And then it can, when you think you're in the doldrums, you think, well, it's not working, so you lose your inspiration, you lose your energy. You just kind of fit into the rhythm, maybe the routine, keep going, but nothing, no real energy there to put into it. Where really the important thing is keep going, persistence. And I would say, for most people, the most important factor of energy is continuity. Many of us, again, in especially our Western culture, we expect kind of quick results, instant gratification. So we bring that to spiritual practice. We go on a retreat. That's why I think these retreats were set up in the West. Like in Ajahn Chah's monastery, we never had retreat. But when Ajahn Tiradhammo came to England, he met somebody who was giving these 10-day retreats in a different tradition. But he invited them to sit on the retreat with him, because it was a nice quiet place, and they could leave the busyness of London and go out to this nice countryside estate in Oxford. So the monks just came and sat there. But because it was a different tradition, it was a Burmese tradition, this layman did all the teaching, and they just sat there. But they really enjoyed it, to be able to sit there and not be the teacher and be out of London. And then they realized, I just realized, I guess, that this was a good format for lay people. In Thailand, the Thais just go to a monastery and just live the normal life in a monastery. That's the retreat. But Westerners don't have that possibility. They don't have that, that way of appreciating Buddhism. But going to a retreat, taking a week off work, so you have 10 days altogether, 2 weekends and 5 days in the middle, and then getting a series of graduated teachings, having time together in group practice, sitting and walking, and the group encouragement was a possibility for people to get some, at least understanding of the practice and some experience, and maybe some results for some people. So that was a, and not everybody got results, but some got negative results. All I got was sore knees and a backache, but some got results in this pretty intensive environment. The only problem was when you leave the retreat, you see, because the retreat was such an artificial environment. It does induce maybe certain levels of calm and clarity in that, but it is very artificial. So they go back home and everything falls apart. So some just book the next retreat. You become a retreat hopper. You can't live it in everyday life, you see. But at least it can give people a taste of the possibility. But the real crucial part is continuity of practice. One of the most common words they use in Thailand for practice is kanti. And usually kanti is translated as, in Thailand, endurance. Just endure. We translate it as patience usually. Kanti is patience. So they say patient endurance. Just endure, Oton. Especially in northeast Thailand where people are tough. Yeah. You said that, not me. But I think in the West it's more appropriate to translate it as patient continuity. To continue, commitment or continuity of practice as patience. Because it takes a while for the practice to work, to change our way of thinking and way of being. It even takes a while, some time, before it even changes our brain. They found that if people meditate at a minimum of 10 minutes a day over a period of time, one program I saw said 49 days, 10 minutes a day for 49 days, and it changes how your brain's wired, actually. Physically changes it. For the better, of course.
I know about 8 hours for 3 months.
Yeah. Then you might blow a few brain cells. So anyway, we get some idea of the complexity and extensiveness of sleepiness and lethargy. So how about cessation? How to work with it now? First of all, just like all of these hindrances, I mean, as I'm trying to explain, there are sources of wisdom. You know, the Buddha pointed out that in order to transcend suffering, one has to understand it, study it, find the cause, release the cause, not just suppress suffering. So like with these hindrances too, I mean, it's not a matter of, like with this one, people try to fight sleepiness. Sleepiness, try and fight it. And of course, fighting it, you get more exhausted. It's one of these endless, you call it a negative spiral or something, you know? You just spiral down and down and down, you know, fighting it. Fighting it, first of all, shows that you believe it's real. Then you put energy into fighting it. And the problem is sleepiness because of lack of energy. So you expend the little energy you have to fight it. You get more tired, more exhausted. You know. Sleepiness becomes unconsciousness. Okay, on a few occasions it does work when the sleepiness is just a minor disruption. But for for sleepiness with deeper underlying causes, it's not going to work. One has to study it, understand what the whole process is here, what's the causes of this, which is a little bit tricky with regard to sleepiness because sleepiness is a lack of energy. So how do you get enough energy to look at the lack of energy? So the most important part is vigilance. Be very vigilant to see this process creeping up on you. So you've already developed awareness of the bodily sensations, feelings, states of mind. So when you notice particular states of mind, you can recognize that they maybe are a signal, a symptom of sleepiness arising. Huh? You know, like your physical body. You know, if you what's the sensation in the body when you notice beginning signs of sleepiness or lethargy? Is the body light or heavy? Is it spacious or compacted? How about the feelings? What's the feeling there when sleepiness is coming on? Pleasant? Unpleasant? Neutral?
Maybe neutral.
Neutral.
You don't know.
Well, you haven't looked at it, you haven't seen it. Yeah. How about states of mind? What's the state of mind when you're...
Unclear.
Yeah. Dullness of mind, lack of concentration, lack of mindfulness, yeah, maybe a little bit of irritation, aversion, something. Yeah. So you cross-reference it, you see. You know, first of all, you know, what's the condition of the body? And you notice, oh, it's heavy. What's the feeling? What's the state of mind? If the feeling is neutral, the state of mind is sluggish, watch out. Here comes sleepiness. Here comes the Sandman. Thunking overhead with the sand. So you developing awareness of already the body and feelings and states of mind. You can cross-reference it to those, 3 or 4 of those patterns coming together. Sleepiness happens before it creeps up on you. Otherwise, you're lost. There's a few helpful exercises, just practical exercises. Once you're in the throes of sleepiness, change postures. That's the most obvious one. Change the posture. Just make a shift in the type of energy you're using. But the first important aspect is to be vigilant about this sleepiness creeping up on you, especially before it becomes a habit. For some people, one of the problems of, say, a formal retreat, I would say, a led retreat, is that they have periods of, sitting, forced sitting. Like in Thailand, we had to sit there, all together. It wasn't a free-for-all. And there's a lot of people in one room, so it was a bit, one big hall, so it was a bit chaotic if people were getting up and walking out and coming in. And so we had to sit there for a whole hour. Well, for some people, usually after 10 minutes, so you just got to sit there and endure it. So, and I remember one monk sitting next to me, and every time, 10 minutes, he was just. And one time I said to him, "You're going to wreck your posture that way." He says, I just have no energy to sit up." He said, "There's no energy." Exhausted, and he was a builder monk, so he was very active during the day. But as soon as it came to the evening meditation, he just collapsed. But if he was working, no problem. Just keep going. So we know lethargy is a lack of energy. So how to create energy now? So I say one of the first things to be aware of, two kinds of energy. We talk about is willpower and life power. Willpower. And most people are familiar with willpower. They want to do something, so they put the energy into it. I'm going to go there, I'm going to sit for 1 hour, I'm going to do this, do that, put the energy into it. However, just the very definition of it, willpower is power based on the will. And the will is the self. So, it's artificial power, isn't it? It's all linked to your will, your ego. So it's not really dependable. And it can't be sustained because ego is not sustainable. So if you're just relying upon willpower, eventually it's going to leave you high and dry. It's not going to work. It does work for short periods of time, temporarily, but not in the long term. So then it's helpful to recognize what I call life power. And life power is different. It's just the ordinary energy the body has to be alive. And so, because it's so ordinary, it's hard to notice. Willpower, you can really get, okay, I'm going to go up to the sala right now, and then boom, you recognize it. But if you already have that as sort of a habit, whatever it is, 6:30, walking up to the sala, it just happens. Even sometimes just automatically. But what energy did you use to get up there? Well, you must have had some life power to get there, right? Or was it caffeine? So the life power is there all the time, from the moment you're born to the moment you die. But it's in the background. And then we bring into it, we develop willpower. When the ego develops, we develop willpower, and that kind of clicks in and overrides many times life power. That's why some people, they have a strong willpower. They can do, quite amazing things. But eventually, if you follow them, they're going to collapse. And one obvious sign of willpower is contraction. The whole body and mind contract. I'm going to do that. Whereas life power is more open, more flexible, more fluid, and just keeps going. So you can see that in some people on meditation retreats. When I give retreats, I usually try to keep an eye on people just to see if nobody's cracking up. Not that I can read their minds, but you can see it in their posture. And the people who I'm most concerned about are those that sit there super straight. oh, they're not going to last.
No, you need it to last longer.
Yeah.
In the war.
Yeah. Even those who are nodding a bit at the first day, second day, if it's 3 or 4 days, then I make it get concerned. But the ones who are just sitting there bolt upright, they're there for a fixed purpose. They want to get something. You see, they have too much willpower to get a fixed result, and it's not going to work. They're going to get exhausted. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to get resentful, and they're going to walk out, or they crack up. So it's a matter of recognizing, these two kinds of power and trying to tune into life power, because that's what will be sustainable. It's there all our life, but it's not so dramatic. It's not so it doesn't stand out so much. But you can begin to recognize it once you maybe have it pointed out to you. Life power, just good enough. Just keep the body upright. It doesn't have to be bolt upright, rigid. Like a brass statue, just good enough. Keep the body upright, and try and keep your mind, keep your attention focused on the breathing as best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but good enough. You continue with that, tuning in with the life power and the limitations of your own mind and body. And you won't exhaust yourself, and you'll put energy in the right place. And eventually you'll build up that or encourage that energy. Life energy. It'll become part of your way of being then, rather than only depending upon willpower all the time, which is short-lived. It'll soon burn a fuse. Another aspect of energy in the Eightfold Path, the Buddha talks about right effort. Not right energy, but right effort. In the factors of awakening, it's right energy. Because energy is a factor of awakening, but in the Eightfold Path is right effort. That is, put our energy into the right place. That is, in general, to cultivate the skillful, wholesome qualities, and to try and put away and limit the unskillful qualities. So after a while, you have these two kind of reference points: what's skillful, wholesome, beneficial, what's unwholesome, unskillful, unbeneficial, recognizing what they are, and see how it affects you and your energy level. You can put your energy into something which is, it can seem to be, like willpower, for example. But if you put your energy into that, after a while it lets you down. So not very skillful. But putting your energy into life power, you begin to see positive. Maybe it takes a while to see results, but eventually it'll bear more results for you. Another one is, helpful one is intentionality. Even though maybe at this time you're struggling with sleepiness or something, but you have the intentionality, just the intention to keep up with the practice, keep working on it. This noble intention, this good intention, will carry you through. It begins to manifest. It kind of like pulls many energies together, having the intention. In the what they call the paramitas, one of the paramitas is Aditana, which is actually determination. It's a bit more stronger than intentionality. Is called determination. You make a determination. So you determine. Usually it's kind of like making a vow usually before the Buddha or something. Some people will make the Aditana to say during the rains retreats to be, to not overeat or something, or not speak unskillful thought, not gossip or something, and just trying to keep up with that. That kind of intention. It requires not only vigilance and some wisdom, but it requires a continuity of energy. You've got to keep with it, keep up to it, again and again and again. And we think, again, we usually think that, we want to decide something right now and get result. But intentionality is something which carries on, carries through. It's like it's timeless. One has the intention. It doesn't need to be, I have the intention to be enlightened. but be careful what you intend. But okay, not today, not tomorrow, maybe next lifetime. But it's a noble intention, and you may surprise yourself that it begins to gather many skillful qualities around it. It's a noble intention, and you think, well, at one level it's a bit ridiculous and maybe even a bit egotistical, but on the other hand, it is because it is a noble intention. You can use it to lift yourself up many times. This intentionality, like the Buddha spent many lifetimes in his practice to become a Buddha. See? So you got to think of it long-term perspective then. So I had a number of different. There was in general the hindrances, helpful practices for the hindrances are what's called the awakening factors, 7 factors of awakening. So some of them, we'll get to them next, but some of them there's 3 active ones and 3 passive ones out of the 7, and there's mindfulness to watch over it. Really. So of course, lack of energy can benefit from developing the active ones. So the first active one is investigation of Dhamma. Second one is energy. Third one is joy, rapture. So those can be helpful factors to develop to deal with sleepiness and lethargy. And we'll come to them in detail later. And then there was one scripture where the Mahamoggallana, the Buddha's left-hand disciple, one of his senior disciples anyway, he was meditating in the forest, and he was the disciple who was famous for his psychic powers. See, he had very good samadhi, concentration, but when he developed concentration needs to be balanced with energy. See, concentration requires energy to concentrate, and is a focusing of the mind. So it's a danger. The mind kind of closes down too. So Mahamoggallana is meditating, and he's trying to develop concentration. He's got lots of sleepiness. So the Buddha saw that. So the Buddha went to him and gave him some advice. So the Buddha gave him 5 different methods to use. First one is not to give attention to whatever is causing drowsiness. So, like for example, it could be like mindfulness of breathing sometimes. People can relate to it as a very tranquilizing object. And so you use that, and you just tranquilize yourself into sleep, you see. Whereas if even you changed you're still using awareness of breathing, but if you awareness of breathing in an insight exercise, be aware of the breath arising and passing, rather than just being aware of the breathing coming in, floating out, and then snoring out. Be aware of it rising and passing away, So it gives a bit more energy to the mind when you observe the changes, for example, impermanence and change. The second one is to reflect upon and investigate the Buddha's teachings. So you're in the forest meditating and you get sleepiness. Well, maybe it's a good time to generally your mind is in a so-called calmer state if you're close to sleepiness. Now you try to invigorate the mind by reflecting upon skillful themes in the Buddha's teachings. Yeah. So that can re-energize the mind, maybe give you a new perspective on the practice. And the third one is to recite the Dhamma, to do the chanting, chant the Dhamma. Of course, this requires that, especially in the Buddhist time, that you knew it by heart. You could repeat it, iti piso bhagawa arahang samma, whatever. This also, I would say, it shifts your mental energy from a more passive one of just observing the breathing. Now you have to kind of engage a more conceptual approach and think about what you're saying. Verbalize it even. The fourth one is when you're sitting there, then you should pull both your ears and massage the limbs. Kind of wake yourself up, shake yourself up, I guess, you know. Yeah. Whatever makes, you know, move your body a bit. And the fifth one is to get up from your seat, splash water on your face, and stare up at the bright stars. If it's nighttime, which usually it is when you're sleepy. And the meditation object they suggest is developing a perception of light, light in your mind. You know, you have to be a little bit careful with this because maybe you can't turn it off sometimes. Should I tell you the story about one of the monks I know in Thailand he was staying in a meditation monastery and he had sleepiness problems, so he went to the teacher. Teacher mentioned this, developed this perception of light. So, oh yeah, right. So he went to the Buddha, you know, in front of the Buddha, and lit a candle, and the way to do it is you look at the light, kind of light, then you close your eyes and you let the light, and you try to internalize this candle light in your mind, you see. So he did that for I don't know how long, maybe a week or something, and then one time, boop, the candle went on in his brain. Oh, wonderful! Look at that. There's a candle in my head. Careful you don't burn your hair. No, but he was, oh, that was wonderful, you know. But then nighttime came, he wanted to go to sleep. Can't sleep because the candle was still burning. Oh. After a few days of not being able to sleep, he went back to the teacher and said, how can I sleep? He said, well, now you got to spend a week and put the kettle out. So be careful with that one. There's more than 5 here. And then the one is to get up from and do the walking meditation with faculties contained and mind collected. Physically generate more energy. And finally, if all else fails, the 8th method is to lie down on your right side, intending to wake up at a certain time and have a rest, but don't oversleep. So get up as soon as you awaken. Okay, there's a 9th one here I mentioned, but very special to the Thai forest tradition, which I don't know if I should mention at all, but that's to sit in a somewhat dangerous place. You know, some of the teachers, they would sit on the edge of a cliff, for example. And so if you're nodding, you'd phew. You know, so your fear of death basically keeps you awake. You know, the trouble is we don't have a very good way of proving its effectiveness, because those who failed didn't come back to tell us about it. So we don't know how many. Only know those who found it useful. Maybe more of them died than got awake, you know. So it wasn't very fair. So, but also, I mean, just you can say more conceptually speaking, but a mindfulness of death. You know, developing a mindfulness of death can be helpful to, you know, whether you contemplate rather than wasting your time sleeping and nodding, you're going to die someday. Yeah. Maybe even lying down meditation and contemplating, soon the body will really not just be lying down sleeping, the body will soon be lying down dead. So better use this time usefully before death overtakes me. And with that, there is also what they call the sense of urgency. developing a sense of urgency that we have limited time, limited energy in this life. You know, we come across the Buddhist teachings, we come across a path of practice that we can follow, that's practiced, that's made available to us. So when will this time ever come again? In a way, that's what inspired me when I was in Thailand. You know, I just went there for 1 month to meditate. You know, but then 1 month, it took me 3 weeks to find a meditation monastery. 30,000 temples in Thailand, and there's only a few hundred meditation ones, or maybe 1,000. You know. But anyway, after I was there for a while, and then I had to decide whether I should go or stay. And then I just thought, well, you know, here I am in a Buddhist country, in a Buddhist monastery, with the opportunity to practice, no need to go back to anything, any engagements or anything. You know, and when will this occasion ever happen again? You know, if I go back to Canada, university and job and family and whatever, you know, when will this occasion ever happen again? So I better use this occasion now to practice, you know, as long as I could, as long as I felt inspired or got the visa or whatever, had the health for it, you know. So it just kept going on and on and on, and
How long? For how long?
45 years. When will this occasion ever? Who knows what'll happen next lifetime? You know, get me born as a water buffalo. You never quite know. Maybe not a water buffalo. Maybe.
Isn't it because Longpo are parami? So
I don't know.
to keep you there because like Western people go to Thailand and it's really hard about life and situation and food and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Should be your parami very a lot parami. So
Yeah, who knows what it is?
He was born in the wrong place.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, there's many different ways, like I say, of that the lethargy and sleepiness manifest, and many ways that then we need to find ways to deal with it in whatever form we're aware of it. We have to deal with it, you see. So we have to be somewhat creative too. I mean, the Buddha gave these specific techniques, changing your posture and pulling your ears and waking up, splashing water on yourself, and but sometimes we have to develop our own methods. We have to have our own particular way of be creative with our skillful means. Like these Thai forest teachers, sitting on the edge of a cliff or something or other. And you need to find. I wouldn't recommend it, by the way.
A lot will we sit in the graveyard as well.
Oh yeah.
Place that you don't feel secure.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't relax in case the ghosts jump on you.
In Thailand, it's more scary. It's not like this.
Yeah.
Doesn't look nice and like.
Mm-hmm.
It's only work for a few times and then you get used to it. That
Maybe too. Yeah.
That's why you have to change. That's why
Yep.
they
Find a different method. Yeah. Walking backwards, and sometimes stopping and doing a bit of exercise or something, and
Of course, I walk on the platform. It's good.
so you gotta be wary of falling off.
Yeah, just use your feet sensation.
Yeah.
If you put the foot and then you feel secure, then you
Next
slowly-
one, yeah.
Next one. If it's hard or you touch the edge, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
spend a bit time to know the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
You not go and then you got scared and then you're gonna fail.
Yep. Then your adrenaline keeps you awake.
It's actually it's between sit and walk meditation, and I found it really useful because you can use your energy or your body much longer. If you keep walking, maybe after 2 hours you get very tired. But that way, for 2 hours you don't walk that much. The energy that you, but at the same time you keep moving slowly.
Yeah. Physically, you don't waste your energy.
That's
by
right.
slower walking. Yeah.
That's right.
Or sometimes it is you can alternate between the sitting and the walking. Like some of the some of the forest monasteries, they have a sitting platform at the end of the walking path.
Yeah.
So you walk for a little while, then you sit.
Yeah, and then walk.
And then if you feel drowsy or your mind gets a bit dull, then you get up and do walking again for a little while.
Some they walk backward.
Yeah. And then people have different places have different effect upon them. Some people need a very domesticated area. They need some place where they feel very safe. Others need a place which is very spacious and a bit kind of, awe-inspiring or something. And I was in one of my Tudong, my wandering exploits in Thailand, North Thailand, and I went in these various monasteries. There's a whole bunch of small Sangha residences up in the mountains in Chiang Mai. So I was in a monastery and they told me these various ones. They gave me not a map, but they told me roughly where they were. So I started off walking. First to the small new monastery in a village, and they had some bamboo huts and quite simple, but it was fine. And this one I was staying in had a walking path, quite nice, but it was right next to the forest. And I walked back and forth, and the mind just did not calm down. I don't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. Just blah 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 blah. So generally it says in the scriptures, if you go to a place, even if you got all the requisites and your mind isn't peaceful, go. Go somewhere else. Even if you find a place where your mind's peaceful, even though the requisites are hard to come by, you should stay there. So that place, it was comfortable enough, but the mind just would not calm down. So move on to the next place. That was a little bit better, nothing special either. So after a few days, went to the next place, which was high up on the mountain. So I went up there, up in this, and then the walking path was right next to the edge of on the ridge. This beautiful view down the valley. And I thought, I won't meditate here. I'll be looking at the view all the time, But I started doing walking meditation there, and the mind just whoop. What was that? So for some reason, my mind just needs open space. And so I stayed the whole Vasa there. had some great insights there. Some real adventures, actually. But it surprised me. I didn't know that. The other place was sort of domesticated. It was reasonably comfortable. Down in the valley, no dangers. This one was a bit wild, I was doing walking meditation one day and a snake went right between my legs. Other time I went around the corner to use the washroom. I bent down, there's a snake right there. There's another one when I was there by myself the first month. And they had a little leaf-roofed hut. We had a fireplace to make the hot water in the evening drink, you see. So I was made the fire, made the hot water, and I was just sitting there, and the water was boiling, so I reached up to grab a glass, and a little voice said, "Watch out." I looked up, and there's a snake right there, already the head up to bite me. Thank you. I think the snake spoke to me. So having these situations sometimes keeps you awake. And just walking down to the bathing place, it was covered in leeches. So as you walked down, you had to keep watching. You didn't check it out. The leeches weren't going to jump on you. So sometimes being in those kind of situations, it does, what do you say, sadunjai, what do you say that? It does kind of
Wake you up.
wake you up. I mean, it's like a little bit of a, not really a shock, but you have to be really vigilant, really aware. You just can't relax.
Like you're
Alert.
on the edge.
On the edge, yeah.
Alert.
Alert. You have to be very alert, because you just can't just, wander off. I was visiting this Thai Ajahn up in North Thailand, and he lived on a very sharp pinnacle mountain, Putok. It was a 7-storied mountain. He built this. It had kind of rings around it, but they weren't complete. So he had the monks and nuns built walkways around it. So there were like 7 levels. Yeah. So I was staying up, I don't know, 5th level or something or other, and the place I was staying in was just a little lean-to on the edge of the cliff, the cliff basically. And it wasn't even flat, it was tilted like that, so if you roll over at night, you might roll down.
It's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's small and man-made.
Yeah.
Up on the mountain. You can, like, fall.
Yeah.
You can fall. It's nothing like made by the villager, so it's nothing.
Yeah, pretty
like,
rough. And then some of the tracks are only this wide. And they go down like this and around a corner like that, and there's a rickety railing. So just living there, you always have to be really alert,
Yeah.
And one day I was walking along there, and I just my mind wandered off, and then I slipped on a rock, and suddenly I think, lack of mindfulness is dangerous.
But they claim there's a lot of deva there, so you will be fine.
Be fine, yeah. Oh, thanks.
Because deva come to
Protect.
respect for the
Yeah,
Arahant
yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, I don't think anybody died there, I think, but
Yeah.
I think somebody fell off fixing the path or something,
They're
but
talking
they
about
weren't
strange
killed.
experience there a lot.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Something.
I used to go up, because after the meal down below, I had to go up to my place. So I went on the west side, out of the sun, you see. Then I would come down the other side in the night, in the morning, to go up into Bad, see. So the last day I thought I should go up the other way and see what it's like. Good thing I didn't go see that before. Good thing I came down in the dark, because oh my gosh, it was hair raising. My gosh, these poles stuck in the side of the cliff, and then rickety and creaking, and oh my God, if I'd have seen that in daylight, I wouldn't have gone there.
In Western world, I think you only can see in the dream world or the place like Dream world.
yeah. See, you
Like that.
can only see on a Jurassic Park or something.
Yeah, something.
So sometimes, though, this, like I said, maybe in the later stages of practice, you may get more experience lethargy and sleepiness more as spiritual lethargy, like the doldrums or something. But sometimes it is a sign that the practice is being internalized. Sometimes it is maybe a sign that the practice, as far as you've been using it or doing it, has dried up. The ego gets used to it. The ego wises up to your skillful means, and then it begins to incorporate it into its own defense strategies. So maybe it requires you to reevaluate your practice then. Why is the practice kind of dried up now? I've been following this particular technique, way of practice for a while now, and now it's been taken over by the ego. I got to find a new approach, a new strategy. Sometimes you have to reevaluate your practice and see. Go back to the drawing board, so to speak. Go back to the scriptures, get a new perspective on it. There's one story about Venerable Anuruddha and Sariputta. Anuruddha was one of the Buddha's original disciples. I think it was his cousin even.
Sariputta's cousin. Sariputta's cousin, right?
Sakyamuni?
Sariputta's cousin.
Sorry,
is
no, I think he was the Buddha's cousin, I think.
Oh.
So they were, the same generation, the first disciples of the Buddha, well, first generation disciples anyway. So anyways, Anuruddha went to Sariputta and he said, something, I should have quoted it, but he said something like, my energy is very strong, my mindfulness is very diligent, my concentration is good, but I'm making no progress. And Sariputta says, your energy is very strong, that's you're attached to energy.
Yeah.
Your mindfulness is very strong, that's your arrogance. Your your concentration is very good, that's your conceit, or something rather. So, even though they were positive qualities, but he'd always been identifying with them, so it blocked his progress, you see. So when he saw that, then he didn't grasp onto his progress so much. It wasn't his that he was doing and praising himself for how good he was, and then he became an arahant. So sometimes sometimes people get very good at, say, the technicalities of meditation. They're great sitters. They can sit for hours and hours and hours, but they're also very arrogant about it. They know the techniques, but there's no humility there. They haven't used the meditation the right way to contemplate limitations of the human existence. They just think that they're really great meditators, They can sit for hours and hours and hours, You hear people say all the time, oh, I sat here and I sat there and I sat for this many hours, and yeah, so what? You got your Vipassana scrapbook now. I sat in New Zealand and I sat in Australia and I sat I can count the countries I sat in.
There's a whole samyutta that's just like disparaging, like the Buddha disparaging honor, and saying stay away from it.
Question?
How would one best develop humility or being humble?
Depends on the context. You can be very proud of your humility,
Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Pretty humble.
Humbling, yeah. I mean, it's basically if you contemplate the kind of limitations of your human existence. You have no control over impermanence and suffering. And if you're a good meditator, some people they bury their suffering under their concentration or something. They don't want to admit their suffering really. They just sit in meditation and kind of pacify it away.
Believe that they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, the trouble is they do have positive qualities like Anuruddha, but they're turning it into a source of ego or pride, or I'm really good at suppressing my suffering, with concentration, because I got really good concentration. Not recognizing that it's just a conditioned process which now they've latched onto to feed their ego again. And then if their concentration does lessen or drop or something, suffering's there again, which maybe is better for them actually. Maybe it's better actually sometimes they fail and recognize the limitations of control, like some people have a lot of control in their meditation. If it all falls apart, they can be lost.
So maybe if someone loses what they believe they're good at,
Yep.
and they get down or upset, it's a good sign
It's a good sign. Yep.
that's something to.
Yep. That's their pride has been humbled or hurt or something. Yeah. Disappointment, frustration. Yeah. So next week we'll try and finish the hindrances. Maybe, yeah. I have my doubts, but
About that.
the famous last words, I thought doubt was an easy one, but then it ended up it took me 6 months to write the chapter on doubt, you know. So restlessness and remorse, and then doubt. Restlessness and remorse is pretty short one, I think. But doubt's a big one, so anyway, we'll try it.
So all these, which one is the biggest obstruction for?
Well, what's...
Is depending on person? Or?
Yes.
Or all of them?
yeah. Well, we all have them to some degree, to varying degrees, you see. But some people have their specialty.
Okay.
You know, that's like there's everybody has a general personality. You know, some are anger personalities, some are greed personality or something, and then those particular hindrances are a special obstacle for them.
You have six Jared is it Jared?
Yeah.
6 of them?
Yeah. 6 temperaments, yeah.
Yeah, which is...
Hmm?
What is that 6?
What are the 6?
Yeah.
Greed, aversion, delusion, faith. One I think is something like discursive thought. Too much thinking, discursive thinking. I forget the 6th one. I thought, I just find out what my character is, and then I find the meditation practice to use, but I found out that I was 5 of the 6.
But I think everyone, we have 6 out of 6, but
yeah.
maybe...
I know I don't have another faith temperament, I know that one, that's definitely not. But greed, aversion, delusion, yeah. Different days of the week. Different hours of the day.
It's going to happen now, after this, but I feel like the sloth and lethargy is the least hindered for me.
Yeah.
And I've been slightly jealous of the people who seem to be having so much tranquility that they fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's not like that for me at all. It's crazy, energetic, restlessness, yes, and sensual desire, yes,
yeah.
thought, yes. So something you said earlier was very interesting about the maybe if you're falling asleep, you might go a bit more, but past it on the breath meditation, noticing the changes. And I was just thinking, almost every time I focus on the breath, I notice the changes. If that's all I'm doing, I'm just noticing the breath go, into its process. So I'm just interested if you had any ideas on the other direction. Yeah, thank you.
Look at the continuity of the breath, as one continuous movement, rather than all the changes all the time, all the subtleties of it. Just look at as one flowing in, flowing out, flowing in, flowing out. It's a more continuous process, so it gives you some kind of a sense of a stability or something. Look at the continuity and the harmony of things, rather than the disharmony and change and disjointedness and things. Look at thought as a flow of mental activity, rather than a whole variety of different thoughts going on. Just the flow of mental activity. If I just thinking of it puts me to sleep. It's like water flowing, it's like your mind is flowing with mental activity. Rather than look at the details of it, which can be very disturbing, but it's just mental activity. Give it a try.
Yeah, give it a try.
How we are different sleepiness to the samadhi, because when the sleepiness, when you in the samadhi, and when you check is it you are awake or not, is it out samadhi already? So sometimes like it. So how we can different.
Well, you have to be really, like I say, if you cross-reference,
Yeah.
what kind of samadhi is it? Is it water buffalo samadhi? Or Buddha samadhi? If your mind's dull and lethargic, that's not real samadhi. That's dullness of mind. So, dullness of mind and heaviness of body, then they add up to sleepiness, to not clarity of mind. There's no energy in the body. And real samadhi should be energizing. The body feels relaxed but energized. The mind is bright and clear, not clouded and dull.
What about the state that you're not aware of anything? Like,
Is that cessation of perception and feeling, or
I don't know. Really
or
don't know.
unconsciousness?
Just don't know. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
right. It's
Well,
none
no,
of
it
that.
must be unconsciousness then.
No,
You know.
because you still see your breath, but you don't feel your body.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you're aware of something, you're not totally unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes the concentration is more focused on the physical, and then mental is off the picture. Doesn't mean there's mental activity not there, but you just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Yeah. You don't feel the body anymore, but don't feel the whole sensations in the body, but you feel the awareness of the breathing still.
Yeah. So,
It's just that's now become the primary focus of your mind, your attention, you see.
yeah. So from there, just keep looking at that. And
You can refine it. You can shift into insight, observing it with insight, observing it arising and passing and arising and passing, beginning, middle, end, stop, beginning, middle, end of the out-breath and in-breath.
And sometimes I feel inhale or exhale is like the air is really strong. One state I feel that the air is really rough, like
Mhm.
a vacuum. So
Mhm.
then what?
Well, you just observe it. It's just the way breathing happens sometimes. It's not always one way. Breath is anatta.
Yeah, but
Breath is, it's impermanent. It's always changing, and it's not the way we think it should be.
no, but I think that the body breathing normal, but the mind
Maybe, yeah.
maybe can notice is better, clear, or
Mhm.
I don't know, but feel like the breath is so rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know that.
And what's the benefit of it? Is there notice any? Is it
I don't know.
beneficial? Does it have some positive effects? Give more energy to the body, the mind, or distracting, or
Oh, it's distract
Yeah.
because when is that have that kind of rough, and then I'm start to, because it's new experience, and then
Yeah.
I start to
Yeah.
worry that
Yeah.
did I annoy other people, but then I notice that I just breathe normal, very gentle, but just because my mind can see the breath very clear, so the breath is really rough.
mm-hmm.
So, is that benefit or not benefit or what? So it's bring doubt to me that, did I annoy other?
Mhm.
And it get annoying. You feel like you don't want to breathe because it's so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
is that benefit or not?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah. Well, you have to know for yourself. That doesn't sound beneficial to me, but
So what to do after that? Do you see that, you experience that, and then what?
well,
Just
you
observing that, or
Yeah.
what to do?
observe and then see if you can, you can make some adjustments. Was there a special cause for it? I mean, sometimes maybe there's this kind of feedback loop. You notice some unusual breath, then you get a little bit shocked or frightened, and then it creates change in the breath, and then changes in your mind, and change in your breath, and change in your mind, and it's just take a deep breath, back to square one again. ordinary breathing.
Happen again.
Yep. Yeah. But maybe there is sometimes changes in the body go on too. Yeah. But now you're observing these different changes, and then what the effect is. Is there always cause for it or not? Or sometimes you just have to. Some of these things are just happen for a short period of time. They're just kind of, you can say, psychic energy being played out, or old habits, or or something or other. Maybe there is a link with a memory or something. Other time, then maybe it goes on for, a few times, or a day, or 2 days, a week, and then it's gone. Don't make a big issue out of it, though. It turned into, I'm getting psychic powers.
Fly out the window now.
Yeah.
And sometimes the body fill up the room,
Yeah.
like that too.
Yeah, all kinds of strange phenomena. Just the point is just to be aware of it, and don't make it into a big issue that it's a problem.
So aware of it, and then observing that.
Go back to
Continues to look at it expanding, or what do you do with that?
just observe the process, and see what the effects are. I mean, sometime maybe, when if your body feels expansive, maybe it does sort of, your mind expands too, and supports more concentration. Other times it can be disturbance, and the concentration is disturbed. Then that's not skillful. Then not helpful.
Sometimes it's kind of enjoy to
So
follow that. So should I do that?
It's so boring before now.
It's more interesting because you see your body blow it up, fill up the room, like that.
Yeah.
And then,
And
should I enjoy that or not?
well, joy is a factor of awakening.
Oh, okay.
Just don't indulge in it. Just don't knock anybody else over. Don't let it go to your head.
Because this unusual experience, so it's really enjoyable.
Yeah. Sometimes it's helpful to get a different perception of the body too. And in the longer term, it maybe helps you to recognize, what I conceive of as my body isn't my body at all. It's got its own, funny. I'm holding on to with my self-consciousness this particular sensation of body, but actually, that's its own thing. Is my concept of it the real body, or is this other spacious body, this floating body? Is that my real body? Who knows? I mean, you have to relate to reality, so hopefully you come back too. Don't stay there forever.
More fun because I'm too big.
Yes.
You experience that, Ajahn? Yeah.
All kinds of weird things,
Yeah.
But the the best advice I got from Ajahn Chah was don't make it into an issue.
Yeah. I know that.
Because people can say, look at this, I've got special powers, I'm a great meditator, or I can levitate or something, and then it's all just fantasies,
Yeah.
Just notice this is the way it is. They say, in Thai they say, sapawatam.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomena, physical, mental phenomena, and we have our fixed idea how the body should be and how we think it should be, but it's not how it is. So just relating to it as the phenomena that arise, they pass away, arise and pass away. Don't hold on to it.
But sometimes I try to, because like I know the great master said, not pay attention or that. That's why I try to bring back to my breath. Don't pay attention to it, but sometimes really enjoy to follow that and see your body. And so I'm not sure which way is the.
I mean, I would say
way.
trying to ignore it also is not. Don't ignore it, and don't indulge in it. Not for it, not against it. Just recognize, that's the way it is, and kind of have a more open attitude, Boy Wang, you say that's how it is, and it comes and it goes, comes and it goes. Because even you're pushing it away, you're still affirming it, see. You're still affirming it's something that bothers me, I've got to get rid of it. So you're still grabbing it. But you just acknowledge, it arises, passes away, and don't make a big issue out of it, and don't make a big story. Write your biography later.
Every form is a lump of foam.
Lump of foam.
It's as real as the trees, from experiential point of view. It's as real as the rocks. It's
Yeah.
as real as the trees.
Real as foam.
Which is
Okay, next time,
Thank you.
same time, same place, same different experience.
Sadhu, sadhu.